Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulil karim amma ba'd. Faqala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fi kitabihi al-aziz. Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Sadaqallahul azim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us for taking out time from our busy schedules and coming together and learning one of the pillars of Deen. The pillars of Deen. And this is something that is important because as human beings, we are born and we pass away. We are born and we don't live forever and ever. There's no such thing as Allah making the human being live forever and ever. Allah mentioned in the Quran, وَمَا جَعَلْنَا لِبَشَرٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ الْخُلْدَ أَفَإِن مِتَّ فَهُمُ الْخَالِدُونَ. That there is no such thing that the human being will live for eternity forever and ever. أَفَإِن مِتَّ فَهُمُ الْخَالِدُونَ. If you had to leave from this world, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then what do the people of Makkah, the Mushrikeen in Makkah, do they think that they will also live forever and ever also? They will also be part of this world. So every single one of us has a beginning and ending. Then the lecture of today is focused towards the end of our life. That what is going to be our end. And of course we all know that there is no dispute. It doesn't matter whether a person is Muslim or non-Muslim. There is no dispute, there is no differences of opinion when it comes to death. There is probably differences of opinion what happens after the death. What happens in the grave, what happens on the day of judgment. The differences of belief that are out there. But when it comes to death itself, there's no differences of opinion. And that's something that everybody believes in this. So our get-together, our objective of coming together today is to educate ourselves. That's the first and foremost thing, because it could happen to any single one of us. And if we are prepared, then we will be able to offer these services to our family members. And if our family members are prepared, if, for example, our son or our daughter is prepared, then they will be able to, offer their services for their beloved father and for their beloved mother, so on and so forth. So this is something that we have to be ready and prepared at all times because it could happen all of a sudden at any moment. So like what I like to say is prepare today for tomorrow. In English, prepare today for tomorrow. So funeral is a religious obligation for the deceased. The Western world does funeral for a living. Embalming, funeral procession, etc. We should not be influenced in this regard. We should not be extravagant in funeral preparations. Our main focus is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfill the right of the deceased. Now the deceased has passed away. Like he's leaving and he's departing from this world. Our main focus is that how can we follow the steps and fulfill the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bury the deceased and lower him in the grave in the best possible manner. Because if you look at the Western world, the concept of death and the concept of Jenazah is more of going to a restaurant and offering the best services, and after the person is offered the best 5-star service, then, of course you tip the waiter, right? So same thing, a funeral director will offer their best services to you and will try to sell you this and that, so that they can make the maximum money off of you, right? So for example, in California, there is a law, I believe it is 24 hours or 48 hours. After 48 hours, if a body is still not buried or is being transported from one state to another state, then the funeral director's main objective will be to make you embalm the body. Now, if you're aware of the embalming procedure, it's a very painful procedure, right? Where all the fluid is sucked out from the deceased, and different countries will have different rulings. So any body that is coming into the United States is, for sure, it has to be embalmed. So different countries will have different rules. So when it comes to embalming, it's a very expensive procedure. So when it comes to looking at Jenazah from Western world, Western perspective, Their main goal is to make money off of you. Their main goal is to offer you those services where the face is shown, where the food is delivered, where people are eating food, where people are having a good time, where people are offered funeral procession, that the entire procession is $2,000-3,000 along with the police escort, so on and so forth that you have seen. But in Islam, from an Islamic perspective, a funeral has to be simple, but as simple as possible. Just like nikah, just like marriage is simple, in the same manner, we should not be extravagant when it comes to our funeral and mayyit and kafan and dafan. Now, just right off the bat, just want to inform you is that when a death does take place, let's say in the family, let's say a death just took place in the family, which entities are involved? Who are the individuals who are involved in making the whole process go successful from A to Z, from beginning to the end, to make it go smoothly? So number one, funeral home is involved, which is the most important thing. Number two, a cemetery is involved. Number three, a mosque is involved. Number four, imam is involved. Perhaps the first three are the most important because you want to notify them ahead of time and let them know that the death has taken place. So the job of the funeral home is they will assign somebody. In fact, for our family member, when a death has taken place, we should assign somebody with all the information of the deceased, the first name, the last name, the social security, the medical background, the medical history, the medical record, which doctor, which hospital the person used to go to. All this information needs to be out there, right? And the funeral, when you contact the funeral home for a death certificate and for burial permit, they will ask you all this information. So you need to have it in handy, right? So when you have it in handy, then inshallah, the burial permit will be issued as soon as possible. Because in Islam, what we believe, if the death takes place, then you should try to bury the person as fast as possible. How do you make it, get done as fast as possible? If you have all the information handy and you start off early. So for example, if the death takes place 8 o'clock in the morning, start immediately. When you start off immediately, then by the end of lunchtime, they will be able to issue you a burial permit or a death certificate. Especially if you tell them, and if you are working with a funeral home who's familiar with how the Muslims are buried, if you tell them that we're Muslims and we need to expedite the process, they will expedite the process. Also, if you tell the doctor that we need your signature for the death certificate, we're Muslims, we need to get to the cemetery as fast as possible. When you explain from a religious perspective, they will be able to issue the appropriate, paperwork as fast as possible. So, funeral home's job is to issue a death certificate and burial permit. Also, cemetery's job, you need to assign somebody to let the cemetery know that we're working on these necessary paperwork. As soon as the burial permit or the death certificate is issued, we will contact you with regards to what's the best time to bury the person. Most of the janazah takes place around Zuhr time, right? It's not in the beginning of the day or towards the end of the day. It's right in the middle of the day. So you need to inform the cemetery right after you inform the funeral home. So you want to keep all these people informed. Also, you want to explain, you want to keep the mosque informed as well. So the mosque can also prepare for the washing, for the ghusl, the entire facility. And if there is imam in the mosque associated to that, then imam will also be on call and he will block his schedule for the mayyit. Because mayyit is not, sometimes if the burial permit is not issued, like you're expecting that the burial permit will be issued around 11 o'clock, then you take the body to the masjid and you wash it before Zuhr, and then after Zuhr you transport the body, let's say from Lowry to 5 pillars. You have all these things in mind, but sometimes it doesn't go according to how you plan. So you will also, if there is a delay, you want to let all these entities involved as well. There's a slight bit of delay when it comes to paperwork. And perhaps one of the most important things is burial permit. And burial permit is issued by funeral home. No cemetery, the state law requires, perhaps across the United States, but I know in California, no cemetery will bury the mayyit unless and until the burial permit is issued and is there. And most of the time, our burial permit, which is issued electronically, which then goes to the doctor, and the doctor signs it, and then it's issued back to the funeral home, and then somebody picks it up from there, and then they go to the masjid where the ghusl takes place, and from there, they make their way to the cemetery. So if the janazah is there, then the burial permit has to be there also. So 5 pillar, I know it's a requirement. They will not bury the deceased until the burial permit is issued. When it comes to death certificate, the death certificate is issued electronically. The doctor signs the death certificate. I believe there is a word called EDRS or something, electronically derived certificate, something along those lines. So when the death certificate is issued electronically, then the doctor will sign it. It will go back to the funeral home. You pick it up from there, and then the original copy will be sent after 15 days. And each additional copy is, I believe, $10 extra. So this is just a little bit of information when it comes to what happens when the death takes place. Things a funeral home takes care into. So all the things that I mentioned is in this slide. So I'm going to skip this slide, inshallah. Place of death. Now, there's different places where a person can pass away. If a mayyit has passed away at the hospital, then the doctor will sign the death certificate. The last doctor who was assigned to that patient will sign the death certificate and will issue a death certificate, and then a person can continue the other necessary paperwork. If a death takes place at home, then we need to, in some cases, if you know there's a prior history with regards to that person, then you can contact the doctor, and the doctor will sign the death certificate. If there's no doctor assigned, then probably this mayyit will then be referred to the medical examiner's office. Every county has their own medical examiner's office. Alameda County will have their own ME office. San Francisco County will have their own ME office. San Joaquin County will have their own ME office. So medical examiner's office is something that has the permit and authority to issue a death certificate. Because when a death takes place, if a doctor is not signing the death certificate, then no other doctor will take that responsibility. So that a person will probably and most likely will be referred to medical examiner's office. And when they go to medical examiner's office, then they will determine whether the autopsy is needed or not. Most of the time, in the cases of accidents, then the autopsy is needed, and they will try to find out if there is any foul play, or if there is any, if somebody has purposely done something to the mayyit, so on and so forth. So in the cases of accidents, mostly the autopsy is done. I'm going to skip this because I mentioned everything on this slide. Next slide. And what I've done is I've only done 17 or 18 slides. I've kept it really brief, very concise, straight to the point. I don't want to give you too much information which confuses the person also. So here on when it comes to cost, when a mayyit takes place, the cost for an adult burial in Bay Area, this is just a rough estimate, don't quote me on this. If you decide to go through 5 pillars or through Chapel of Chimes in Hayward or Halfway, the prices will be different. So if you want to find out the exact price, you can contact, but this is just a ball figure of what you're expecting. So the cost for an adult burial in the Bay Area is about $8,000 plus. That's including everything, opening and closing of the grave, headstone from beginning to the end. I know for a weekday in 5 pillars is $6,000 if the mayyit takes place during weekday. If a janazah takes place on weekends, then it's extra $500. So you're looking at about $6,500 to $7,000. This includes everything from beginning to the end, digging, opening and closing, headstone. If you like the headstone to be in your own language, like in Urdu language or Farsi language, I believe there's an additional $200 cost to it. Otherwise, in this price quote, the English headstone, the headstone in English language is included. And then also so this is just for the grave. Then you have extra cost for a funeral home. The funeral home will charge you anywhere between $1,800 to $2,500 for the transportation, for the issuance of a birth certificate, transporting the body from the hospital to the masjid. The ghusl takes place there from the masjid to the cemetery. So all in all, you're looking at about $2,500 with the funeral. In case if you need to put the body in the cold storage room, then there is about $500 charge to use the cold storage facility. Not every masjid has that. You need to acquire a certificate, a permit from the county to be able to hold the mayyit in a cold storage facility. I believe 500 does have that. Lowry Masjid does have the cold storage facility. Adult plot purchase and opening and closing of the grave is about 600. I mentioned that with 500. As death approaches, what do you do? When a person is passing away, they're in their last moments, you have kind of an idea that now this person is going to pass away. What do you do at that point? So the Prophet ﷺ said that always remember the destroyer of all pleasures, that always remember, constantly keep it in the back of your mind that a person can pass away at any moment and we need to be prepared at all times. So what should you do when you are around someone who's reaching death? Okay, so you're experiencing this is a very emotional experience. If you have experienced somebody who had breathed their last in your presence, then it's something that moves you and triggers that movement from within you because you're experiencing firsthand, right? So number one, that the people who are around the mayyit or person who's passing away, you should remind them about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should remind them about all the good things, all the positive things that they have done in their lives, that inshallah Allah's mercy is vast, Allah's mercy will inshallah forgive and envelop and take a person. And also along with that, kalima, gently without insistence. So you don't need to tell them, read the kalima, because there's a possibility that the person will say, no, I don't want to read the kalima because of the pain that they're experiencing. So in that case, everybody in the room should recite kalima gently, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So when everybody is reciting, inshallah, it will also trigger a lip movement for the person who's passing away. And they will also. Now another thing is that when a person is passing away, you do not need to hear that the person said La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah loudly. Because there is so much pain, how are you going to expect them to read La ilaha illallah in a way that you are convinced that they said it loudly? Oh, my father read the La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Oh, my mother did that. No, if you see that they're reading, if you see that they're immersed in that dhikr, this will take the place of reading, right? Because they're in that state where they're not able to say it from their mouth. So it's not necessary that in their last moment, they have to say La ilaha illallah and you have to hear them and you have to be convinced. No. If you have that, if you can tell that they're reading and they're involved in the dhikr even though you have not heard it, this inshallah will take the place of that hadith. Man kana akhiru kalamihi La ilaha illallah dakhala al-jannah. Then after the death, what happens once a person has passed away? Close the eyes of the deceased. Then bind the jaws, lower jaws, so that the face doesn't open or it doesn't sag, and place an object on the stomach, so about 1 pound or 2 pound, right? You will place something on the tummy of the person so that it doesn't expand, because what happens is that when the soul is taken out, then you will notice after 24 hours or some time, you will see that the body starts inflating. So that's one of the reasons why you want to bury the deceased as fast as possible. So you want to close the eyes, because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said when the soul is taken out, that the eyes follow the soul. So that the soul is taken out from the feet all the way through the ghargara. Inna Allah yaqbalu tawbat al-abdi ma lam yughargir. So long as a person is in the throes of death, Allah will accept his tawbah. This is the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that when the soul is finally taken out, then the time of tawbah is over. So when the soul is taken out, then the eyes will follow the soul. So that's why the eyes remain open. So you close the eyes, you bind the lower jaws, you put an object on the stomach, 1 pound or 2 pound, not so heavy. Then cover the body with a clean sheet. Cover the body with a clean sheet. And number seven, hasten to prepare for kafan, washing, shrouding, burial without any delay. Number eight, take care of any debts that the person might have. So these are the steps that you need to follow once a person has breathed their last. Who should give ghusl? So death is a reality for all of us. When a Muslim dies, it is a responsibility for his family members or other Muslims within the community to wash him according to the rights of Islam, washing the deceased. So it's a responsibility of either family members, if they're not that educated enough or they're able to handle and do it on their own, then one person or imam or somebody who's learned can be there to teach them and guide them. Also the reward of ghusl, Abu Rafi al-Aslam, may Allah be pleased with him, the free slave of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu reported, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu said, reporting al-Hakim, that whoever washes body and conceals what he notices a physical defect, he will be forgiven 40 times. The Sahih Hadith, I checked up the background of this. Imam al-Albani rahimahullah, he has confirmed this hadith to be true, that whoever notices a defect when a person is washing the deceased and hides it and conceals it, and the reward of washing the deceased, Allah will forgive him inshallah 40 times. And also, when you hide the fault of your brother, Allah will hide your fault on the day of judgment. So during the time of washing, we can't say that, oh, his face was black, or he had so much sin that you couldn't even see the effects of the sins on his body. Or if a person hid something in his entire life and you're now taking out the clothes and you see a spot on the front or on the back, this is a secret, right, that we're not supposed to expose. On the contrary, you're supposed to say, mashallah, how much nur that the person had, what a legacy that the person left behind. So speak good, speak positively, don't speak negatively, don't expose the sins. So no personal comment should be made when it comes to the washing the mayyit. Who should perform the ghusl? Number one, individuals who are trustworthy, individuals who are honest, individuals who are looked up into the community, adult Muslims who recommended amount of people is 3 to 5. If people have experience, then 3 people can get away with it also. If people have not done it in their lives, then you need more hands. At least 3 to 5 people should be sufficient. Number 2, they should know the Islamic method of washing the deceased. Number 3, male deceased should be washed by males and females should be washed by females. So males by males, the females, the sisters by sisters, and children, the minors, if they have not reached the age of puberty, then they can be washed by both male and female. That's why it's important that we as individuals, we should volunteer our time and learn, this practically. Inshallah, I'm going to show you this, but this is just a demonstration. But we need to, learn practically. That's why the last slide over here, and the QR code I've generated, if you are interested, inshallah, in having a hands-on training, and also in the community, we need to have volunteers, men volunteers, the sisters volunteers, who are ready to help out if a death does take place in the community. Then we need to have the information of the volunteers, inshallah, which will be saved on this QR code, so you can just scan it through the camera of your phone and just fill out your first and last name and your phone number. And inshallah, if I ever need help or if the masjid ever needs help, they will contact you. Brothers for brothers, sisters for sisters, inshallah. So we need to learn this so we can practically apply it, inshallah. Then the things that are needed for ghusl. So the things that are needed for ghusl is, number 1, clean location, private location. You don't want to be in a public location where people are walking back and forth and they're observing. Number 2, warm water and soap. Number 3, gloves, towels, shoe covers, mask, apron. Number 4, washcloth, towels. Number 5, camphor, itar. Number 6, kafan materials. And privacy for deceased is crucial, important, and requirement at all times during the ghusl. The deceased clothes should be removed and the body should be covered with a clean sheet of cloth at all times. Now with the method of ghusl, I'm going to have to stand up and show you, inshallah, and this entire slide is with regards to the method of ghusl, which is one of the most important slides here. So the things that are needed for the ghusl, you can see that I laid them out over here. I'm probably missing 1 or 2 things, but alhamdulillah, I got most of the things here. So I'm going to stand up, inshallah, and show you a quick method of ghusl and washing the deceased. So I want to have two people. Maybe if I need a third volunteer, I'll call you. But I need two volunteers who can come up, inshallah, and help me out with this. So I can also. I'm not able to read.
Sheikh, very blurry, nobody can read it.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
This
Projector on the other one?
Brother Firo's laptop.
Can you use the projector? The other one. Wall is
Let's get geared up, inshallah. So,
because the wall has the pressure of the top. The other one. Yeah, that's it.
So while he's fixing that, the two volunteers who are ready, inshallah, if you can come up and put the gloves on, put the mask on, inshallah, we'll follow step by step on what to do. So, okay. Anybody else? Need one more person. Inshallah, this will be a good experience of learning and applying, inshallah. So, the smaller gloves, there's a possibility of water seeping through. That's why I prefer these gloves, the latex gloves. Even there are certain gloves that will go up to here. Once I used Masjid Abu Bakr's facility in Masjid Abu Bakr in Hayward. MashaAllah, they have a very good facility. So they have the leather shoes, they have the hand gloves all the way up to here, the apron. The entire gear is there. So either you can keep it with you at your homes in emergency, or the masjid will provide that. Also, it's beneficial to have it at home just in case. Just in case, it's beneficial to have it at home because you never know. About 3-4 years ago, I had a phone call in Millbrae, and there was a doctor who had passed away. So we gave him ghusl, and it's my practice that I always keep an entire kafan and the kid in my garage just in case if something happens. So Sheikh from Milpitas called me. He said, "We need some help. Can you come down?" So we drove to Millbrae. We helped them, but the Sheikh had forgotten his kafan. Right? The kafan that he was supposed to bring for the mayyit, he forgot at his house. Luckily, I had it in the trunk of my car. So there's a benefit of having it in your garage or in the trunk of your car, right? Just in case, you never know. So, mashallah, that comes in handy. So here, is it clear now? Okay. So the first thing, if you can't read it, inshallah, I'll say it to you. So the first thing is if you guys can come in the front. So now we're starting our ghusl. So the first thing we need to do is we need to say Bismillah, right? And start washing the deceased. So now I'm going to tell you the steps and then you're going to follow. So we read Bismillah now, and we took off all the clothes, right? Using the scissors. I should have scissors somewhere, but imagine I, took out the clothes, everything. If the body comes from the hospital, you might have, this you guys can come here. Sorry, he's recording. They might have, hospital gown on it. They might have anything of that sort, right? You need to take all of that out. I think there is a state law in California that the deceased clothes needs to be disposed of in a hazardous material bag because it could carry disease, so on and so forth. I'm not sure, but you can check up on it. The state law requires that you cannot keep those clothes for memory. A lot of times we like to keep it for memory. You are not allowed to do that. It has to be, especially if you're assigned to a funeral home, which is a licensed funeral home, and you take out the clothes and you ask the funeral director, can I keep those clothes? No. They'll give you the hazardous material bag, and they'll tell you to put it in, and they will properly dispose of it. So imagine we took out the clothes, we read Bismillah now, and we need to cover our. So grab the towel and cover the awrah. So you do that, and then after that the wudu will start. So you're going to wash the right arms 3 times, right? Yes, so there's going to be another individual who's going to stand here and is going to pour water, and then you rub it, and then you do it from here backwards all the way to the elbows.
And you make sure the whole arm is...
Yes, so the whole arm is wet, so we're going to get to it from top to bottom. We're going to do that, but right now we're doing wudu, right? So we're taking one part at a time, right side 3 times, left side 3 times, right? Then we're going to do masa, like face, arms, elbows, masa of the head, and feet up to the ankles. So you're going to wash the right foot 3 times, and then the left one 3 times, right? So just like when you are preparing for salah and you're making wudu, the same wudu you're going to apply to the mayyit, right? So now we're done with istinja, now we're done with wudu. Now the third step and the last step is the step of ghusl. The easy way to do ghusl is you pour water from the beginning of the head all the way down, just to remove any impurity that probably came out after wudu. Then after that, you do the right side of the washing 3 times, and then you tilt the body and you do the left side of the washing 3 times. So imagine I'm helping you, right? You tilt the body towards the left, right? And then you're washing from the shoulder all the way down. You're applying soap. There's a person who's applying the soap, and the person who has a hose in his hand, and then he's doing all of that the right side 3 times, and then you...
So there's a brother moving this to hold goes through, expose the private part.
Yeah, the front, the aura, which is the front, is not only the front, it includes the back side also. So you want to make sure that when you tilt the body to the right and to the left, you want to make sure that the aura is covered front and back at all times. And then you put it down, and then you do the same thing on the left side. Okay, so imagine you're washing it 3 times. Where are we? Which number is this? It's a hard one to me. Yeah, tilt the body, then lift the body to a sitting position and massage it downward in stroke. If any impurity does come out, it should be washed out. So now here, just to be as an extra step, just as we massage the stomach in the beginning, some people do recommend that we massage again towards the end as well. And if the impurity does come out, then you don't need to repeat the ghusl again. The ghusl is done, and you can just wash it from underneath. Right? Because each time you press the stomach and the najasa comes out, how many times are you going to wash the body? Also, it is recommended to wash an odd number of times, so 3 times, or 1 time, 3 times, 5 times, 7 times. Yes.
The body is in an accident and they're losing blood throughout the...
Good question. If the body is oozing blood, then if you are at a funeral home which has the entire facility, because they experience this almost on daily basis, then they have the proper equipment to close off the wound. Okay, so you're going to try your best to use such a bandage that does not ooze off the wound or it doesn't bleed the wound. When you do that, and you have closed off the wound and you have done your level best, then if the blood oozes out, then you don't need to repeat the ghusl again. Right? I did once body a person who was shot, and the blood just kept on coming out. So through the tummy, right, I kind of used a plastic bag because we didn't have a proper bandage, the funeral home we were at. So we used a plastic bag to try to cover the wound as much as possible. We did that, we finished everything, and then after we did the kafan, a small amount of blood came out. So now, how are you going to open up the kafan again and take it back and wash it? So once you're past the step, then you're past the step. So you try your level best to, block any fluid that is coming out of the body, inshallah. Where are we now? Pour the camphor water from head to toe, remove cotton wool, and dry with clean towels. Ghusl is complete now. So now you're going to, the camphor that Rasulullah used to use either lotus seeds. In the time of Rasulullah, there was a tree that was known as lotus seed. The leaves of those trees were used in the warm water for ghusl. So if we don't have that, then camphor kafur, what we call it. And if we don't have kafur, then we can use the normal soap also. But after you've used the normal soap, now you take the bucket of water water, and then you put camphor in there, and then, imagine you're going to stir the water, and then you're going to put it on the final wash, for the final wash. And once you do that, once you put water with the camphor, then you're going to dry the body with the towels, you're going to dry the front, you're going to dry the back.
Do you know ghusl, do you recite something or not?
There's no specific dua mentioned in the hadith about, reading. As I mentioned, that we're starting off with Bismillah. Everybody who's watching, inshallah, they can be in the state of dhikr, whatever dhikr that they would like to do, la ilaha illallah, astaghfar, any dhikr that they would like to personally indulge themselves in, they can do that, inshallah. Yes?
Yes, the dead body is placed in what direction? Towards Qibla or some particular direction? It should be placed
It is recommended to face the Qibla, just like at the time of passing away in the home or in the Qibla, face the deceased towards the Qibla in their final moments. Also when you're washing, the deceased face the Qibla in their final moments. Also when you're lowering the deceased in the grave, face towards the Qibla. So it is recommended to do that facing towards the Qibla, inshallah. Where are we now? The ghusl is complete. Okay, for kafan. So now we're going to open up the kafan. It should say M for the male and F for the female. So go ahead, and the one that doesn't say anything, that should be for male. So just a quick overview of what the kafan is like. So the kafan for the male is how many sheets? 3 sheets. The kafan for female is how many sheets?
4.
5. Right? So just right off the bat, you have izar, you have qamis, and you have lifafa. Izar, qamis, and lifafa. This is for the men. And then this is 3 plus 2. For the sisters, they would have khimar and they would have sinabal. So they would have khimar and they would have sinabal. So 3 plus 2, 5. So lifafa is first and it's the longest. Usually the measurement for lifafa is 7 by 7. This kafan that I got is very old, right? And it shrunk, it went small. So this is not 7 by 7. This is probably 6 by 6 or 5 by 5. But you need to, as a community, we need to have kafan which is ready to go for, for the infants, for the babies, a small size kafan, the medium size kafan, and large size kafans for bodies 6 feet and more. So this is a medium size kafan, imagine that. And so the bottom, so I think you want to put this on the floor so everybody can see it. So can you just lay it out and open it flat on the floor? And so I'll be able to demonstrate it better. So that sheet, there's 3 parts in that. So the one that's all the way on the bottom is called lifafa. The one that's all the way on the bottom is called lifafa. And that is approximately 7 by 7. I would like to have the kafan, which is 8 by 8, because when you're tying the knot, a couple of inches here and there are extra. So I would prefer to have long kafan, but like I said, this is a medium-sized kafan. So lifafa is the most bottom sheet. So can you pick up lifafa from the corner? The most bottom sheet. Yeah, that's lifafa. Okay. So this is for men. Number 2 is izar, which is laid down on top of the lifafa. So on top of lifafa is izar, okay, right there. And then number 3 is qamis, shirt with head opening, laid down, open, and deceased is placed on it. Okay, so the one that's all the way on top is qamis, okay? So there's kafur in there. This is kafur and everything. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to open this right here and hold this. Can you stretch it out? Okay. So, like I said, this is lifafa, this is izar, and that's qamis. Okay? So when you now imagine, let's use this. Okay. And then his head is going to go through that opening. So you're going to bring him from this side. Okay? And then feet down there, head here. Perfect. Right, stretch out his legs. Okay, stretch it down. Yes, now wrap it over his head. You see that? So there needs to be a cut for the qamis. Just like how you wear a shirt and we have our collars right here. We're able to easily put our head through it. This is the cut for that. And then so you cut vertically and horizontally. So you cut this way and you cut this way, and that's how you get a qamis like this. So we can even make our own kafan, inshallah, and keep it ready. So here, so now you have this qamis. Now, the way you're going to wrap this kafan is just like how you say Allahu Akbar and you pray salah. Your left hand goes first and then your right hand. Okay? So you're going to take one sheet at a time and you're going to go over the left side and then the right side. So here you have the qamis. Now you're going to do izar. So izar, left side, close it, and then the right side. Okay? Make it a little bit tight. Right? And then now what you're going to do, you're going to tuck this so that it doesn't sag. You're going to tuck it underneath the feet of the mayyit.
Tuck it in.
Tuck it in. Perfect. Yeah, 3 knots by the feet. Put it under this lifafa. Yeah, just keep it. It doesn't have to exit out. Keep it right here. Right here, yeah. Keep it right here. All right. And then the middle one, same thing all around the bottom, on the carpet. And then you do the same thing on the head over there. So use this knot. Okay, so yeah, now just cover the left side. So each time you cover, each time you cover, to make it set, to prevent sagging. See that? Right. Now you do the right side. Okay. Okay. If the family wants to show the face of the deceased, the mayyit, after the washing is done, then you can keep it open. If the family has decided that they don't want to, say different people, different preferences. So you can keep it open after the mayyit. If not, then inshallah you can close it. So imagine we're not going to show the face. So let's close it and bring it here, underneath it. Now, tie it. How are you going to tie this? Can you show me how you're going to tie this? Huh? You're going to tie it like a shoelace. Okay? Yeah, there's a reason why.
Easy to open.
Yeah. Okay. The reason why we did this is when we put the person in the grave, then all we have to do is just pull one and the entire thing comes out. Right? So you don't need to tie it in a way that you're having a hard time in the grave opening. So tie it like a shoelace. And then after that, when you place the individual in the grave, Bismillahi wa ala millati Rasulillah, you're going to read that dua, and then you're going to place the person in the grave. Imagine this is Qibla. So let's turn the head around. This is the grave. Okay. So what is the teaching of Islam? That when you place the person in the grave, face him towards the Qibla, and you don't want to lay him flat on his back. You want to tilt him. So that's why the qabr nowadays have that cement wall. So you're going to lay him down against a cement wall and tilt him. Right? And then after that, you make a pillow. So there's dirt here. So you make a pillow of the dirt underneath his head. And then you're going to lay his head down. And then after that, you're going to open up these knots. This is the quick way and comprehensive way of showing you the ghusl is now complete, the kafan is now complete, and lowering in the grave is now complete. I'm going to go through inshallah a couple of other slides. If not, then I'll open up for Q&A if I don't have anything to mention. So for the sisters, there's sinabad and there's khimar. So for the hair of the sisters, there's a special hijab. Khimar is a hijab which is placed. And sinabad, which is around the armpits and thighs. So around the armpits from here all the way to the thighs, this is called sinabad. And khimar, right here, is placed upon the hair and the head, right? Also, during ghusl, you want to make sure that you're not doing a zina, the beautification of the hair, the clipping of the nails, you know, shaving the hair of the private parts of the armpit, all of that, because then you're going to wash the deceased and eventually they're going to go in the grave. So there is no clipping of the nails or zina or beautification, anything of that sort. You are allowed to comb the hair of the mayyit, inshallah. And this is the completion of the ghusl. Salatul Janazah, we all know Salatul Janazah. There are 4 takbirats. The first takbir is dana. The second takbir is Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Allahumma barik ala Muhammad. The third takbir is dua for mayyit, Allahumma fili hayyina wa mayyitina wa shahidina wa gharibina. The fourth takbir is salah. And also the last slide over here is during burial. We lower the deceased with Bismillah wa ala millati Rasulullah in the grave, as I mentioned. And also, when we're pouring the dirt on the deceased in the grave, then it's minha khalaqnakum wa fiha nu'idukum wa minha nukhrijukum taratan ukhra. The questions now, last question is that what about janazahs for the baby? So, according to Fiqh ruling, if the child was born and he was alive and you heard his scream and you heard that there was a sign of life, and then let's say 2 days later the child passed away, then you will name the child, you will pray salat, you will wash the child, and you will pray salatul janazah. You will treat it just like how you treat any other janazah out there. But if the child is born and it's a stillborn and there's no sign of life, right? There's no, it came out, deceased. Then you name the child, you wrap the child in kafan, and there is no salatul janazah on that child, and you take that child straight to the grave, right? So, because the child is ma'soom, they have not done any sin, they have not committed any sin, the adhan and the iqamah is not given, so therefore the salatul janazah is not there. Also, at the time of salatul janazah over here, there is no adhan and there is no iqamah. Why? Why there is no adhan and there is no iqamah? And I'll finish with this. Can anybody tell me?
It's not the funds.
No?
It is already done.
Yes.
Not right.
Because it is already done, then he was.
It's already done. When?
Time the board. When he was, the adhan is done.
When the baby is born, then what do we do? Adhan and iqamah. In one ear, adhan, in the other ear is iqamah. So that adhan and that iqamah is given. Now the time between adhan and iqamah is 10-15 minutes. So that's why Allah mentioned in the Quran, قَالَ كَمْ لَبِثْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ عَدَدَ سِنِينَ قَالَ إِنْ لَبِثْتُمْ يَوْمًا أَوْ بَعْدَ يَوْمٍ فَاسْأَلِ الْعَادِينَ قَالَ إِنْ لَبِثْتُمْ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا لَوْ أَنَّكُمْ كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. On the day of judgment, when people stand up, they will say, I think the life of Akhirah compared to the life of Dunya, it was just one day. You compare it, we found it's just one day. Some people say, no, it wasn't even one day, it was probably 1 hour. Some people say, oh, no, it wasn't even 1 hour, it was just a few minutes. So that's how the adhan and iqamah is done at the time of birth. Now there's only salatul janazah at the time of passing away. This completes my slide. Again, I would encourage you that if you want to, practically get the hands-on training, please scan, use your camera and scan this QR code. There's a few copies, inshallah, I made. You can pass it down. Also, if you want to look at the example of burial contract and burial permit of 5 pillars, Brother Adnan was nice enough to give it to me from 5 pillars. This is the example of what 5 pillars are going to be using when you get there. This is the example of funeral services, funeral home. This is the information they want you to fill out when you call them for the deceased. And these are the necessary phone numbers for Lawi, for MCA, for the general information. So all the material is out here, inshallah. After the dua, you can take a look at it. Any questions before I close off, inshallah?
Well, what about the deceased before his passing out? He has taken the ghusl by himself.
Ji.
And after a while, he has away.
Still, you, yes.
Do the same procedure?
Yes, still.
For sisters, the two extra, where does it go? The two extra pieces that you said, there are 5 pieces for
Yeah.
sisters. Where do the other 2 pieces go?
So, yeah, the question is asking where exactly is the Sina blood and Izar going to go. So I tried to put this in order. There is there's slightly a differences of opinion about number 2 and number 3. So number 1 is Lifafa, number 2 is Sina blood, for the sisters I'm talking about. Number 3 is Izar. And between number 2 and number 3, there's slight differences of opinion. So it's not major, it's not like fard and wajib, it's just a recommended practice. So some people say number 1 is lifafa, number 2 is izar, number 3 is sinabad, number 4 is qamis, and number 5 is the khimar, the hijab. Right, does that answer your question? Okay.
So, I heard that some people prefer their ihram to be used in the kafan. So how that is possible?
There is no like specific guidelines for ihram to be used as kafan. It's something that people have, especially people from India, Pakistan background, the Desi culture, and our culture. They say that wear the ihram, then you wash it with Zamzam water. So you see the guy in Makkah, Medina, literally taking a bath and pouring, water, Zamzam water. So this is the kafan that I'm going to use in my grave. If that's something that they've decided, yes, no issue. Because for the kafan, the most recommended thing is a white sheet. And ihram is those white sheets. But how are you going to use 2? Because for the kafan, it's just top and bottom. And for the ihram, it's just top and bottom. And for kafan, you need 3. You need lifafa, izar, and qamis. So you're going to have to get one more to complete the 3. You can also text me questions, inshallah, later on. That's my number out there. You can't see it, but yeah, inshallah, you can use all this material, and if there's no question, then we're going to wrap up, inshallah. Yes?
So I heard that if somebody dies because of the wound, like in the Ghazwa, they died when they were fighting, or somebody shot them, doesn't need to be.
Yeah, you're talking about the shaheed, right?
Yeah, the shaheed.
Yeah, the shaheed. So the Prophet ﷺ said that there is no ghusl for the shaheed.
Yeah.
And you will bury, the kafan for the shaheed is a clothes that the person was wearing in Ghazwa or in the battlefield.
Yeah.
So what's the famous story of the Sahabi? Hazrat Hanzala radiallahu anhu. Hazrat Hanzala radiallahu anhu is a Ghasil al-Malaika. So he passed away in the battlefield. And the Prophet ﷺ said that, inshallah, it's hope through the mercy of Allah that for the shaheed, the angels will give ghusl. So human beings doesn't need to give ghusl to the shaheed. Okay.
So in this case, somebody kills someone.
No, so you will still treat him like a normal person. Why? Because there's different categories of shaheed. There's shaheed al-ala, the highest category, who passed away in the battlefield. Other than that, any person who has a stomach disease and they passed away, any person who went out for a good cause, they went for Salatul Fajr in Mayyit, they met up in an accident, they passed away, you can call him shaheed, but you cannot give him the highest level of daraja as shaheed. So you can say, inshallah, yes, he passed away through the mercy of Allah as shaheed, but all the other procedures like ghusl, kafan, Salatul Janazah will be just like a normal person. Okay, inshallah? Any questions? Okay, subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
كانوا قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون وبالأسحار هم يستغفرون وبالأسحار هم يستغفرون. قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون وبالأسحار هم يستغفرون. قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون وبالأسحار هم يستغفرون. قليلا من الليل ما يهجعون وبالأسحار